Okay, so now we're in part four of the myopia math problem, and that's to calculate the number of classes. So let's go back to um, this project guide, to this flowchart. So step three in designing a histogram, this is where now we're going to be doing two sets of calculations. This is where we're going to start creating the two separate histograms. So here we're starting from one data set, but by the time we're done, we're going to have two distinct, unique frequency tables, and we'll end up with two distinct histograms. Histogram one of the random variable and histogram two of the random variable. So I'm going to have one histogram for my speed random variable and a second histogram with my speed random variable. But they'll look different. Okay, they'll look different. But just to kind of give you a heads up, this is where our calculations will start to diverge, and we'll be kind of doing duplicates of things, kind of moving forward. And so in step three, in order to calculate the number of classes, which is this variable k is the number of classes, we're going to use two formulas. One I call the OpenStax formula because that's the one that's in the textbook. And this one called Sturge's formula, which is a common one used to calculate the number of classes um, for histograms. So let's go back down. Okay, so step three here. Let's go ahead and put in the formulas as they stand. So the number of classes is going to be equal to, and let me insert an equation, and I'll want to put in a radical square root of n, like that. And then I'll right arrow key out, tab, so that's one formula. And then Sturge's, let me just go ahead and put insert equation. So that's k equals 1 plus 3.32. I'm just going to go ahead and put it times log of n, like that. Let me go into this one and I'll change that to k equals, so it's all in the equation there. Okay, so these are the two formulas we're going to use. So a little more space there. Okay, so let's flip over to our spreadsheet. And what we want to do is we're going to use the OpenStax method to calculate K1, and that's equal to the square root of n. And then down here, we'll be using, move that out of the way, Sturge's formula to calculate the second k, and that's 1 plus 3.32 times the log n. Okay, so remember what I said before, that the text is bleeding over. We don't want it to get in the way as we're clicking over here. So I'm just going to double click the boundary between column C and column D. That'll make column C a little bit wider so I can freely click in these cells out to the side. All right, so to calculate this value of k, we want to have the square root of n. So n is this number. That's why I typed it in earlier. So I'm going to put an equal sign because now I want it to do a calculation. And if I type in SQ for square root, see here, this is the function in the spreadsheet software that does square roots. So I will double click that. And now it wants the number. Well, the number I want it to take the square root of is this one. So I'll left click that. That's the only input it needs. So I will close this by putting a right parentheses, and then I can either hit this green check mark or I can hit enter. And there is the square root of 241. So now let me do the same thing down here. except I'm going to put equals. Now I'm going to use Sturge's formula. 1 plus 3.32 star for times. Now I'd start typing in log. Okay, that's a logarithm. I think I'm going to want to use log 10. Okay, this is log base 10. This is the one you want to use. So I'm going to double click log 10, and we want to take the log of this number, 241. So I'll put right parentheses because that's the only input it needs. So we can see the formula up above. I can hit the green check mark, or I can hit the enter key, and there's my calculation. All right. So based off of these two numbers, one is going to be our low number of classes. The other is going to be the high number of classes. And we're going to put those here and here. So let's go back to the guide. Let me kind of show you, kind of what we did. And this will be helpful. So let me use the insert. Let me put insert an equation. And we'll put k equals square root. For me, this was 241. And let me select this and left justify it to put it there. And I think this came out to square root of 241 came out to this number, 15.52417. So I'm just going to copy that, come over here and paste in just the value. There we go. And over here, I'm going to insert an equation, type this in. And I'm just doing this to show you how you can insert equations into Microsoft Word. Okay, kind of how simple it can be. And then I'll click here, tab a couple times to line things up. And I'll put k equals, and now I'm going to copy and paste that value here. When I paste it, I want to paste in just the text, just the plain text. That looks good. All right, so let's look at what we're supposed to do with these two. And I'm going to show you where we are in the flow chart. So we've calculated K1 using the OpenStax method. We calculated K2 using Sturge's formula. And now we want to take those and want to evaluate them. So the lowest value of K, we're just going to round it down to the nearest, we're going to round it down to the nearest integer. No matter what, we're rounding it down. That'll be our K low value. And then we'll take the other one, which is going to be higher, and we'll round it up. No matter what it is, we're going to round it up to the next integer, and that'll be our K high value. Okay. So let's come down here. Our lowest value of K was this one. Let me put, that was our K2, if I remember correctly. Let me keep this together with our spreadsheet. There we go. Okay, so our lowest value of K was this one. So paste that in. And now we're going to round this down. So even though it says 8.9, I'm going to round this down to 8. Like that. And then the highest, so if this was the lowest, this one was the highest. Yours may be different, you know. So I'm going to paste that in, or you can write yours in. Either way is fine. And now we're going to round this up. So that would round up to 16. Right? So one histogram is going to have 8 classes. And the second histogram will have 16 classes or 16 bars. So here, K low is going to be equal to 8. K high is going to be equal to 16. There we go. And there we go. Now let's come back over to the spreadsheet. And let me show you how to do that. Again, trying to teach you a little bit more about spreadsheet functions. So, sometimes it takes you a while to figure things out, or you have to Google search it. For rounding up and rounding down, Microsoft Excel uses the analogy of you standing in a room. And when you're standing in a room, what's below you? It's the floor. What's above you? The ceiling. So if you want to take a number and round it down, no matter what, you use a floor function because it's below you. If you want to take a number, any number, and round it up, no matter what, you'll use the ceiling function because that's above you. Okay. So K-low is we want to round down the lowest of these two. So I'm going to put equals, and to round it down, we're going to use the floor function. And I think we want to use this floor.math one. So I'll double click that. And so now we need to put in the number. So the number we're going to put in is this one because this was the lowest of the two. Right parentheses, hit enter, and it's 8. Okay, now we'll do ceiling. I'm going to do the ceiling of the higher of the two, which will be this one. Parentheses, enter. All right. So, here we got the same values of 8 and 16. Again, yeah, you could look at this and see it with your eyes, just like we just did. But again, I'm trying to teach you, more functionality. I'm trying to teach you how Microsoft Excel works. All right. So ancillary benefit here. All right. So K low is 8, K high is 16. So let's come back over to my open math. And so for histogram 1, it'll have the smaller number of classes, which was K low. So K low for me was 8. This will be an integer, right? No decimal points of accuracy here. Histogram 2 is going to have the higher number of classes, or K high, and that was 16. So if these two answers are correct based off of my data and everything that I've done thus far, when I hit submit, it should count it as green. Now, one thing I can't avoid is every time you hit submit, it's going to take you to the top of the problem. So you'll have to scroll down and check. Okay. So it liked 8 and 16. Those were both correct. And now it's letting me on to part 5. So I think this is a good place to stop. Let me know if you have any questions.